Ladies and gentlemen, my name is the GruntingPixel, and after having several days to sink my teeth straight into the harrowing carcass lovingly referred to as the Taken King, I have come to give my final verdict on the expansion. I'd like to start off by saying that I have unsurprisingly not completed the raid, because as of recording this video, the first group to do so only completed it recently. So that means I unfortunately won't be able to give my review on it here. But what I can say is from what I've experienced, it is just as good, if not better, than that of the previous raids, which is a good sign. I'll start off by saying that the Taken King provided a lot more content than I was expecting. Is it $40 worth of content? I'll get back to that in a moment. What I will say is that if you were looking for a bunch of new things to run around and do in Destiny, then you may want to consider picking up the Taken King. The main story missions took me a couple of hours to complete, mostly because I like to take my sweet time when playing video games, so I'm sure it could be beaten a lot quicker. What surprised me though, was after I had finished the last main story mission, I was still getting new quests and new missions to go and complete for hours and hours after the main story had concluded. There are a bunch of quests, bounties, objectives, and other things to do in the Taken King, more than I think most people expected. Playing devil's advocate, you could argue that these quests, bounties, etc. are just filler to pad the amount of content in the game, and I can see that, but you can make the same claim for any number of MMOs or RPG games. This content was made for those who enjoy completing said content. If that's not your style, then you may want to shy away from the Taken King. But there were a few times where even I felt that a quest here and there was just filler or padding, but most of the time I had fun completing the quests I was offered. The new strikes, in my opinion, are pretty good. Much more interesting and fun to play than that of vanilla Destiny or the previous DLC. One strike in particular gave me an oh shit moment, when at the end of the strike you have to plummet into a pit of darkness, and then wander in the dark while you are slowly being hunted by a giant knight with a hammer. It allows for a fun kind of cat and mouse gameplay, where you can barely see, so you're constantly checking over your shoulder and eyeballing that minimap, trying to locate the strike boss. There's nothing quite like listening to your friend jump out of his skin after saying, Guys, I don't see him, where's he at? Followed by a scream as the knight appears behind him and nails him with a quick swing of the hammer, killing him instantly. Moments like that just simply didn't happen in previous Destiny strikes. The other aspect of the new strikes that I enjoyed were the fact that there is an emphasis on the story and plot, giving you a reason why you are there as well as the enemies that you are seeking to destroy. For example, one strike sends you out to kill a couple of Cabal who are planning on destroying the Dreadnought's core, which would blow up and take most of the solar system out with it. They give you a clear objective and a tangible reason as to why you're supposed to go out and complete said objective. While this may have been the case since vanilla Destiny, it felt better expressed now, with clearer and more interesting plot behind the strikes. The reimagined strikes are also good, and saw improvements in terms of pacing, difficulty, and time to complete. They still feel relatively the same, but with just enough of a fresh coat of paint to make them refreshing versus their vanilla counterpart. All in all, if you enjoy playing strikes in Destiny, then you will enjoy those offered in the Taken King. The Dreadnought is a new location with a decent amount of things to do, explore, and kill. I actually think the Dreadnought is the weakest inclusion in the Taken King. As cool as it isn't interesting enough, and there isn't enough to do in it to warrant more than a bit of initial exploration, and then return when a bounty or quest requires you to do so. Which is a shame, because there's a lot of potential here. And while all the secrets and hidden things around the Dreadnought are cool, aside from trying to solve these mysteries, there isn't anything else to do here that wasn't provided in other patrol spaces, aside from the Court of Oryx. Speaking of which, the Court of Oryx is a relatively fun, but kinda gimmicky little addition to the Dreadnought, which has you using runes you collect off bosses to then summon more bosses to fight with a fire team for potential rewards. This was fun at first, but once you've run through it a few times and gotten all the loot it provides, you'll likely get bored of doing it shortly thereafter. The Court of Oryx also seemed to be balanced weirdly. While a very good fire team of 3 with a high light level can complete the higher tier summons with just them 3, I have seen 4, 5, even 6 Guardians all fail to complete tier 2 and tier 3 summons, even when they were above the recommended light level. That, and the fact that only the person who uses the rune gets guaranteed drops. It seems bizarre and counterintuitive to what Bungie were trying to accomplish. These summons should be challenging and rewarding, not punishingly difficult and exclusive. All those who participated should get drops in my opinion. Maybe there's something there that I'm not getting, but it just seems odd to me. Aside from all that, the new weapons, gear, artifacts, subclasses, and the like are all awesome. The new weapons and gear look great, even if a lot of the perks and attributes on them are pretty weird, situational, and sometimes arbitrary. For example, I've seen a few weapons with a perk that grants bonuses for a few seconds after being revived, bonuses when you are the last guardian in your fire team alive, or for a buff when surrounded by a handful of enemies in close proximity. While an argument could be made that while doing a raid or a high-level strike where guardians are constantly going down, that perks like these would be useful. I still feel like they are incredibly situational and limited, and why anyone would pick those over something like precision kills increase reload speed or killing enemies increases weapon damage seems beyond me. The new subclasses are actually really cool too. The new Titan Super is really good in PvE, but bordering on overpowered in PvP. You can eviscerate an entire enemy team and then some if you are good with your super. The same can be said for the Warlock. I've seen players carve a swatch straight through an entire enemy team with a single super, even killing the same players again after they respawn with that single super use. While the Titan and Warlock subclasses are awesome, I feel like the Hunter got the short end of the stick in terms of the new subclasses. It's not a bad subclass by any stretch of the imagination, but its problem is, much like a lot of the perks on the new weapons and gear, is that it is very situational. You are essentially the buffer of your fire team. Your super will make yours and your teammates' shots hurt more, as well as assist in crowd control, but that's about all it does. In terms of PvE, it's pretty helpful, especially when running with a fire team, as your job is essentially to be the support class. But if you play alone or want to use the new subclasses in the Crucible, you'll honestly be better off running as a Titan or a Warlock. The Hunter's subclass just simply isn't good enough in PvP in my opinion, and even in PvE if you're playing alone, especially when compared to those of the Titan or the Warlock. And last, but most definitely not least, are the story missions. Holy damn, Bungie may have finally gotten a hold of themselves. There are more cutscenes within the first few missions than that of the entirety of vanilla Destiny, as well as more characters, plot, story, and context. And might I say that that is an incredible breath of fresh air. Being a primarily single-player gamer, I love stories in games when they are done well. So to actually have a story in Destiny is long overdue, but welcomed graciously by me. Is it bullshit that I had to wait a year and pay extra for it? Yeah, arguably. But with that aside, it is here in the Taken King, and it is really good. The first mission you play in the Taken King was really well crafted. Pretty cinematic, very well paced, and actually provoked an unease and sense of curiosity as I explored the base on Phobos. Watching Cabal being pulled into a vortex and disappearing into thin air, while sidestepping around apparent black holes and rips in space-time. It was actually pretty awesome, and the subsequent missions that followed were all similar in quality. This was a level of enjoyment I hadn't experienced in the entirety of the rest of the Destiny storyline, and I'm glad to see that Bungie is starting to show real improvement in that department. Are they the best story missions I've ever played? Absolutely not, far from it. But in terms of what I've come to expect from Destiny and from Bungie, they are leaps and bounds better than what I had expected. And after how much Bungie was talking them up, my expectations were pretty high. There are actually characters in the Taken King, and motivation, and exposition, and interaction. I learned that the Hunter Vanguard isn't named the Hunter Vanguard, but in fact Cade 6, and that the Titan Vanguard is Zavala. And they actually talk to you. There are character dynamics between them, and they have conversations not only with you, but with each other as well. Finally, there are real characters with names and personalities in Destiny for the first time. This all seems like obvious things that anyone should expect from a storyline in a game, and I really shouldn't be gushing over them. But these things simply didn't exist in vanilla Destiny, nor in either the Dark Below or the House of Wolves. At least not remotely to this extent. So their inclusion deserves to be noted. I don't want to oversell these storyline missions, because in terms of others like Mass Effect or The Last of Us, Destinies aren't on that tier. But if you've always loved the Destiny universe and wanted to experience a story and characters in it, you can finally do that with the Taken King. It's almost a shame that the best part of the expansion for me was the story missions, because like how most story missions end up being, there really isn't a ton of replayability there. They are a blast to play through for the first few instances, but I can imagine most players will become bored after running through them a handful of times. My only real complaint with the story is completely arbitrary and unimportant, but it seems kinda silly to base the entire DLC on a raid that less than 20% of players have actually completed. I have never played the Dark Below's raid, so I have no context for the story of the Taken King other than what I have observed from the outside. To have the story talk about all the things I've done, even though I never actually did them, is weird. I understand that Bungie assumes that you would have done the raid from the Dark Below, but seems to forget that a lot of players play by themselves and never even touch the raids. Even with co-op being an option in the storylines, I would say a good portion of people who play the story do it by themselves. Of course, not everyone, but a sizable amount. So it does seem odd to link the story, which is meant for people who want to play the story, to an action that a sizable number of players never took, but assumes that they had. All in all, The Taken King is a pretty sizable expansion, with a lot more content than I think most players were expecting. With all that being said, is it $40 worth of content? Honestly, I don't think so. If this were priced at $20, I would say yes, this is worth the price. Even if it were $30, the argument could still be made that it's worth it. But at $40, to me that's a hard sell. It simply comes down to, if what you want right now is a sizable amount of new content to keep you interested in continuing to play Destiny, then you should probably purchase The Taken King. The content is there, and its quality is very good. It's simply just overpriced. If the price point isn't an issue and you just want to know if the content is good, it is. But if you're like me, and I would imagine a lot of other people, and you don't always have $40 to throw at games you've already purchased, then The Taken King might be a hard sell. $40 is 2/3 of a full game, and I don't think they offered 2/3 of a full game's content. The content that they did offer is great, and there really is a lot there. I'm just not sure it's $40 worth. At the end of the day, these are just my opinions, and I fault no one else for having a differing one. What do you guys think? Did you guys buy The Taken King? What were your thoughts on it? Was it worth the $40 to you? Let me know down in the comments below. I have been the GruntingPixel, you guys have been awesome, and I will see you guys in the next video. And after having several days to sink my teeth straight into the harrowing caucus, And after having several days to sink my teeth into the harrowing caucus, I was still getting new quests and new missions to go and complete for hours and hours after the end of the mission. Fucking poopy dicks. When at the end of the strike, you have to plummet into a pit of darkness, and then wander in the dark while you are being slowly hunted by a giant knife with a hand. Fucking knives? Motherfucking knife with a hammer. Fucking walk in, crime scene, and the fucking knife killed the guy, because he fucking knife used a hammer. God damn it. Which would blow up and take out While this may have been the case since vanilla Destiny. All in all, if fucking God, why can't I say that right? Fuck. All in all, God damn it. Shit. All in all, okay, I have to stop. All in all, if you enjoy playing All in all, if you enjoy playing God damn it. Oh, come on, man. What the hell? All in all, if you enjoy playing strikes in Destiny, then you will enjoy these in the I'm fucking up. Speaking of which, the Court of Orcs. Speaking of which, the Court of Orcs. Why do I keep saying it like that? Shit. Well, the argument could be made that while doing the word was raid. Where the hell did the sh come from? I need more punctuation so I know where all my pauses are.